Now we know that the border areas of J&K have been evacuated, several areas out there. We also know that we are with precision satellite technology watching and keeping a man on a complete map of what's happening in the Pakistani airspace. There is a very, very high degree of alert as far as the BSF is concerned across the entire western borders. There are no guarantees that we expect from the Pakistanis. You know, they are capable of doing anything. They're a terrorist nation, so you can't take any chances, can we sort of? But what will they do? What can they do now? We've really cornered them.
They're rattled.
Yeah.
Arnab, they're rattled. If you see the response from the Pakistani Prime Minister to the ISPR and ISI, they're rattled. They're really gathering, fragments of what really has. This was a shock and awe operation, brilliant operation by the Indian Army. All our congratulations to the Indian Army and the leadership of the Prime Minister, who demonstrated the spine to make sure that the Pakistanis realize that Indians cannot be bled anymore. Enough is enough. Prime Minister has demonstrated that decision making, that clarity of thought which he has been talking about, that India will respond in a manner of choosing at a time that India will decide. And diplomatically as well, we have layered it very well. We have told the Americans that India will defend its national interests. The morning's phone call when the NSA spoke to the US National Security Advisor, he clearly told her that India will not escalate but will not tolerate any terrorism happening from Pakistan, and despite India's best efforts, Pakistan has done nothing.
Yeah.
So this is the response India has given, and the nation is celebrating tonight, Arnab.
Well, absolutely it is. We have a lot of expert voices coming in, but the peacenik lobby is having a very tough time, Gaurav. They don't know what to do. They really wanted a softer approach towards Pakistan. Maybe a few more seminars did not work. Welcome, Kamal Sibal. Getting some breaking news, Mr. Sibal, that the NSA is holding an important meeting of top officials of the Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Defence, Ministry of Home Affairs to prepare India for any kind of counter response. In this kind of situation, how do you think the government would be looking at the situation, and what level of coordination would we be doing? In your view also, broadly, today's action, how much of a shift does it signal in our foreign policy thinking?
This is a question addressed to me?
Yes, sir, Mr. Sibal, to you.
Actually, audio was not clear. It's very unclear, so I didn't catch the full drift of the question. But let me try and guess what you said. The likely Pakistan reaction and how we'll cope with that. Now, one, Pakistan, as you see, is deliberately playing down what happened on the line of control because they don't want pressures to build inside Pakistan on the Pakistan army to take action in retaliation for the Indian counter-terrorism attack. They don't know really what to do because this is a red line which India had imposed upon itself for years. We didn't want to cross the line of control despite intense provocation from the Pakistan side. Now we've done it. And this is a new ball game, and Pakistan will have to digest what this means. If they think that they can carry on business as usual and continue to foment terrorism and send in infiltrators, then they really don't know this time how India will react, because earlier they had the freedom to choose the time, the place, when they will do whatever they intended to do, and they knew that India will react. Make some threatening noises, and will go back to the dialogue mode after a few months. But this time, the calculation of Pakistan cannot be as before, and they have now to factor in what India could do, because India sent a very strong signal. I would say that on the Indus Waters Treaty is even a stronger signal than this particular counter-terrorism attack, because that's the lifeline of Pakistan, and India has signaled to Pakistan if they continue down this road, then India will be compelled to go beyond exercising its own rights under the treaty, but think potentially of even walking away from it. And there are other diplomatic steps we have taken. So there is a huge panoply of tools we have developed, both military and diplomatic, which Pakistan has to contend with. And then Pakistan is also involved on the western frontier. Its troops are tied down. They've got a huge problem. Afghanistan and relations with Pakistan are at a nadir. And President Ghani is fed up with Pakistan, so Pakistan has to manage its western frontier. So there are limits to what they can do in terms of taking on the Indian army on this side. So their reaction probably would be the same as before after a short while of sending in infiltrators and committing acts of terrorism. But there is now a risk element involved which Pakistan has to factor in, and which they cannot really factor in any serious, predictable manner. And that is the huge edge we have gained. And finally, I would say that thanks to the Prime Minister, we have crossed an extremely important psychological barrier that we impose on ourselves, that we will not cross the line of control. Now we've opened for ourselves a huge space, both on the military front and on the diplomatic front, of course, to deal with this menace of this Pakistan, or this rogue state that Pakistan is. And I hope that Pakistan will ultimately begin to realize that they have to mend their ways. And finally, let me also add finally one point, that Pakistan today is really beginning to get isolated, because the world is fed up with terrorism. They see the threat of terrorism globally, and they see the Pakistani footprints in global terror. So Pakistan today doesn't have the same sympathy and support as it had even during Kargil. And now Pakistan is isolated. The only good friend is China, but China is also playing a cautious game, because they are also seeing openings in the relationship with India and would not want to foreclose those possibilities by siding with Pakistan on an issue on which Pakistan is isolated. Even within our own region, it's unprecedented, and again a victory for our diplomacy that Bangladesh and Afghanistan and Bhutan have joined hands with us to say conjointly that we are not going to attend SAARC, because there is not a conducive atmosphere because of this terrorism to have a successful meeting. So all in all, I think our government and our Prime Minister and our armed forces need to be complimented.
No, Mr. Sibal, just get a little bit more breaking news coming in. And I've got this, that all the chatter being picked up till yesterday between the terrorist groups is stopped. This is information that we are getting from our intel sources, that there has been silence since the attack. So Gaurav, what does this mean? All the chatter stopped, silence since the attack. So are they changing track, or are they just stunned? Quick word from you before I go to Pawan Verma. Gaurav?
I think they're spooked. First of all, I don't think they ever imagined that the Indian army would cross the line of control and hit them so hard. So they will go back, they will regroup, they will go back 50, 60, 70 kilometers inland. And it just points on one direction, that what has happened was beyond their expectation. They are spooked. That's the only word to use.
Yeah. Pawan Verma, just look at this thing in perspective now. Do you believe that the strategic thinking of the Narendra Modi government vis-a-vis Pakistan, the depth of the strategic thinking has not been understood by usual observers? Because now if you look at this incident and you link it to everything, first give them an opportunity, then pull back, then lay the diplomatic stage for this operation, then isolate Pakistan on the SAARC stage, then take them on the UNGA, then push them on MFN, squeeze them on the Indus Waters Treaty, use your economic clout by bringing countries on your side to the point where the State Department clearly snubbed Pakistan like it was never done before. Mr. Pawan Verma, you've been a diplomat, and today I really want you to take away any political angle to your response. I know you've been critical in the past over the last 1 week of the Narendra Modi government's foreign policy, and you and I have quarreled on that. That's all right. But today, when you reflect back, is it possible that you're seeing a very careful and sophisticated line of strategic thinking that perhaps many people did not appreciate when it was, being carried out? That it was underestimated?
Well, Arnab, first of all, let me, although I've been on your channel through other means in the day, let me now face to face congratulate our central government and our brave armed forces for the decisive action they have taken against terrorism. The nation salutes our armed forces, and I salute the government as well of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Secondly, I want to say to you that with the action that has been taken overnight, a watershed moment has really arrived in India's dealing with Pakistan's use of terrorism as a state policy. For too long now, Pakistan had come to believe that they would continue to inflict 1,000 cuts on India And whatever criticism we had in the past was to do with the manner we were dealing with an increasing spiral of cross-border infiltrations with only rhetoric and not action. But yesterday, we have shown that like all nations who respect their sovereignty and can fight to preserve that sovereignty, India has taken the resolve to hit back and to inflict pain where Pakistan thought they will receive only words. Thirdly, I want to make the point that by doing this action, India has shown that ultimately other nations respect nations, especially nations who claim great power status legitimately for themselves, when they are prepared to help themselves. And once again, this is a watershed moment from that point of view. I want to add 2 points more because we are looking also for the way forward. I believe we require maximum vigilance at this time because we are dealing with an unstable nation. We are not dealing with a predictable nation because of the very structure of the power elite there. And secondly, we must continue in parallel the diplomatic blitzkrieg that we have begun and which we need to carry out in the important chancelleries of the world. This is an occasion to be proud, but not to gloat, to plan, but not to
No, there's no gloating.
It is an occasion. No, I'm not saying to you. I'm saying this is a moment where, as a major power that has reached a watershed moment in dealing with a recalcitrant neighbor which would refuse to take a message that you cannot be a sponsor of terrorism and have a state accepted with passivity. We have shown that we can respond. Now is the time to go ahead and maximize the gains from this with maximum vigilance.
I congratulate you today on your statesmanship, Pawan Verma. I congratulate you even more for standing together, leaving all political differences aside, and for standing together. And I'm saying this with all seriousness today, because when I heard of a phone conversation between your top leader Nitish Kumar and Rajnath Singh, I think it happened this afternoon, and I was told that
Rajnath Singh spoke to him.
Yes. Can you tell us more about it?
Mr. Nitish Kumar has tweeted congratulating the central government and our brave armed forces.
And I think that is why I genuinely believe that this is a great moment here today. There can be no piecemeal way of doing this, and there is no grudging acceptance of the situation either, Pawan Verma. So I genuinely congratulate you for keeping politics aside and coming together. And in doing so, you know, you and I have quarreled on this, and you have said, don't question my patriotism, etc. Nobody questions anyone's. But we stand together today in celebration and in resolve.
Comes first.
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. And the most important thing, Pawan Verma, and I want to take this with Sambit Patra is here today, it does not matter. The Prime Minister of India is Narendra Modi. And the Prime Minister of India is the person who has given the political direction for this move. And the Prime Minister of India must be complimented. And even the army, Pawan Verma, as you know, even the army would compliment the Prime Minister for putting his political might and weight behind the forces.
The armed forces work with the sanction of that political resolve.
Absolutely.
Which we appreciate, and we have congratulated the government and Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Absolutely. No, the point here is that people of India need to feel safe. And they have not felt safe very often because there's been a feeling that we, as Maruf says, we punch below our weight. So the point to be made here also is, Sambit, that the Director General Military Operations in his press conference today made a very important point that had we not gone in, right Maruf, had we not gone in and had we not carried out this attack and had we not eliminated these 40 terrorists and these, you know, these 10 odd, whatever, 9, 10 odd Pakistan army personnel which we were forced to neutralize because they came in our way, and anyone who comes in our way is going to be simply neutralized. That's the point here today. Nobody wanted to kill these Pakistani army personnel, but they wanted to be killed. The point is, had we not gone in, these people were going to come before the snow set in, right? Go through the same infiltration routes, right, Sambit, and carry out another terrorist attack here in India. It could happen anywhere. It can happen in Jammu and Kashmir, any Indian city. So I got Sambit on that, and Maruf, I want to come to you after that.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, Sambit.
You're right. 2 or 3 quick points before Maruf comes in. Number one, today for the first time and after a long time, as has been rightly pointed out by you and the panelists also, that India has realized its potential. Look, India was always powerful, but somehow we never realized how powerful we were. Powerful in the sense that we could protect the interest of the nation. We could protect the citizens of India. And that potential, in fact, has been shown to the world. So the first thing is, yes, salute to the Indian Army, salute to the Indian Prime Minister for his political resolve. Always remember, the combination of the courage of the Indian Army plus the political resolve or the political will of the Indian dispensation, that's what comes together to see this kind of action. And you would all agree with the fact that as far as the resolve and the courage of Indian Army is concerned, that existed right from the very beginning. What was required in the recipe was the political willingness, and that has been added today. And yes, thanks to Mr. Pawan Verma for having come up, I mean, he is not being political today, and thanks to all the political parties that we are standing as one family today, and that's what is the beauty of Indian democracy. Second point, since the word surgical strike has been used since morning, let me just take 10 seconds to say as to what surgical means over here. And you were rightly pointing out those 9 military personnel probably came on the way. Surgical means precision of incision. The incisions in a surgery is not given anywhere and everywhere. It is precision over the tumor. The tumor over here was terrorism, which had to be removed. It was not Pakistani army. So the precision of surgery. Second, in surgical strikes, bleed as less as required. Don't bleed any drop more. So that's what was followed. I mean, any kind of action that was taken by the Indian army was only to see to it that the terrorists who were on the launch pad were eliminated. Nothing beyond that. No installation damage, no civil damage, and no damage to any other organization which were not involved directly with terrorism. So naturally, if 9 military personnel came on the way, they were the ones who were helping out terrorism, and that's the reason as to why in this surgical procession they came in way. So I would say concludingly that, remember, this is not Indian army versus Pakistani army. This is Indian army taking on terrorism. So this is a peaceful India fighting for its citizen. The message is not an aggressive India. It's a peaceful India fighting for the rights of its citizen, which India should have done previously, but thankfully today it is doing.
Absolutely. These strikes were carried out. Maruf wanted to come in. These strikes were carried out in Bhimber, Hot Spring, Kel and Lipa. We have the map of that area, which are between 2 to 3 kilometers within the territory occupied by Pakistan. And there were terrorists and Pakistani soldiers who were killed in the attack. Can Nawaz Sharif distinguish between terrorism on his soil and his administration supporting terrorism anymore? I don't know. The Pakistani government and its army has refuted and played down the surgical strike and calls it mere cross-border firing. I want Maruf to come in on that. Maruf, that's so completely ridiculous to call this cross-border firing. We have the terrain map out there with this kind of a terrain, and you've served across in the Indian Army. Can this be done with cross-border firing? Can you have these many people killed, these many casualties with cross-border firing? Maruf, come on, put on your military hat and tell us the reality there.
Ornab, let me clarify a few things. Firstly, firing across the LOC is very routine, and both sides with 70 years of hindsight and experience are pretty well prepared to deal with it, and that includes very heavy shelling by artillery weapons which can blow off the rooftop of a normally well-constructed building. The point at issue is that this firing and shelling that takes place has been used extensively by Pakistan to give cover to the militants and terrorists who slink into India through gaps and rivers and nalas that exist across the LOC despite the fencing. We have now used somewhat a similar tactic to get back to them as we did over the last 24 hours. The second point to understand, and this is a deeper point, that Pakistan's army now is between, if they do admit it, they are going to be doomed. If they don't admit it and don't react, they are damned. So we have put them into a real catch-22 situation, and I think they're going to wait and watch to see how the public moves opens out in Pakistan and respond accordingly. And the third thing to understand is that the Pakistan army, since the days of Zia, and I know it from my days in the Indian army from the 80s, began to use religion as a principle of war and religious philosophy of jihad as something, as a motivator for every soldier, and using jihadis as proxies as a tool to extend that philosophy. So therefore, the number of people of the Pakistani army that were killed in this raid, my figures that are coming in to me are close to 10 to 12. And these are normally minders of every group of about 10 to 15 militants. The total number of terrorists that are killed, my figures are close to 70. It might be more. Right now, we have been projecting a figure of 35, but I said to you earlier in the evening, it could go up much more. The reality is going to come in maybe in a day or two more, because more briefings are going to be held. And the three other quick points. One is that this operation, as Mr. Pawan Verma has very clearly articulated and others have in the past, carries strategic lessons not just for India, and a strategic benchmark not just for India, but for the Pakistan army to recalibrate their entire India policy hereafter. And tactically, it is a shot in the arm for our army.
Oh,
and
yes,
it's a wake-up call to the bloated Pakistan army, who has lived under the cover of cowardice of using jihadis to fight us. And finally, and most importantly, if we can get standard operating procedures in place, which means that in future, the cabinet does not need to deliberate too much. These troops and these units are in place. You hit us somewhere, we hit you 10 times harder. And also remember, special forces apart, there were infantry commando trained platoons that were used in this operation. They call them Ghatak in the Indian Army. So therefore, as I said earlier on your 7 p.m. show, this was not just of the parachute regiment, but certain other infantry units and technical assistance was provided at various stages of the operation. I don't want to go into details, but those of us know, we know.
Well, we know we are getting pictures here. I'll put it on the screen soon, which are coming in from our sister feed ANI of BSF men dancing to Bhangra to drums celebrating the surgical strikes. And I have a very, very interesting comment, typical Raj Thackeray comment, which comes in from Mumbai. I'm just putting it on the side, where he says, Raj Thackeray in his inimitable well, those are the pictures out there, the celebrations there of our BSF men. Let's see if we get an ambient audio also. Oh, well, that's fantastic. Celebrations there. Maruf, you know, this is infectious. Now it becomes contagious out there. Gaurav, you're seeing these pictures. You know, this mood, it's uplifting almost. That we've taken it for far too long, and now when I see these pictures out there, I can only imagine, Gaurav, and maybe you can tell us, in the platoons, in the units, in the regiments, in the brigades, down there among the sentries, the border posts along the LOC, what will be the mood today? Because this news will be going viral all over today. What does this mean for people who are out there in the border defending our own borders and our people?
I think, Arnab, this news has already gone viral across the Indian Army. Every soldier, every officer knows. And it's like electricity passing through the body. There is an absolute sense of joy. There is an absolute sense of josh. This has really been a shot in the arm for the morale of the Indian Army. And while they are very, very attentive on the border, because they know that Pakistan will try something in the next maybe 24 hours, 48 hours, or a time and place of their choosing. But at the platoon level, section level, company level, or the battalion level, I think the mood at the border is going to be absolutely ecstatic and people are going to be absolutely joyous, because this has happened after 71. Not just crossing of the LOC, but the government and the Indian Army openly saying that yes, we have gone across, we have
look at that
border strikes in Pakistan.
Look at those pictures, viewers. Look at those pictures to the Bhangra celebrations breaking out. Celebrations breaking out among the BSF Jawans. This is such a brilliant moment. As India strikes back, this is what we wanted. Now Pakistan is also caught in a bind out there. Maruf, looking at these pictures, Sambit Patra, this is what a change of political will can bring about. We always had the competence, we had the ability, and now we are hitting them back. And how? Saurav, I want these visuals are from?
Yeah.
These visuals are from Jagdalpur. These are anti-Maoist forces, actually. Anti-Maoist forces celebrating the victory of our brave soldiers across the LOC. Anti-Maoist forces. Saurabh, interesting point there, right? Anti-Maoist forces from Jagdalpur celebrating this. Saurabh?
Absolutely. Arnab, they have been restrained for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, they had the capability. Every time, as you know, Ambassador Kanwal Sibal was saying, that we always had this diplomacies with Pakistan, that don't cross the LOC, give them diplomatic dossiers, and that's it, and expect someone else to fight our battles.
Yep.
That was never going to happen.
Yep.
I'm glad that we have crossed it's a game changer, as you said. That today is a historic day that people talk about Indira Gandhi of 1971 as the Iron Lady. I would say Narendra Modi is the Iron Man of today, who has demonstrated a political resolve, who has demonstrated that he can take a decision to authorize the Indian troops to act in a manner that they choose.
Right.
This is truly a historic day.
Okay, let me put another comment in here. Typical Raj Thackeray comment when he says Prime Minister Narendra Modi and our army has conducted the Shraddh of Pakistani terrorists in Pitru Paksh. I congratulate the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister. Going into the other point here about Pakistan being caught in a bind, Pawan Verma couldn't resist a smile there. You know, that's the kind of comment that comes in from Raj Thackeray. We'll try and get him on the phone. Okay, Pawan Verma and G. Parthasarathy, on the point of Pakistan being caught in a bind, if I can get you in on that. I agree with you, because I don't know what they are going to do, because if they respond A, it will be broadcast to the world that they are responding to India because India carried out the anti-terror operations. B, it will be broadcast to the world that not only does Nawaz Sharif take terrorists as the leaders, he also takes actions against those who act against terror. Now, if they don't take action, they will be caught flat on their feet like they were post Bin Laden's killing in Abbottabad. So Pawan Verma, on Pakistan being caught in a bind, as a move, these surgical strikes really have them tied up in knots. What do you think, Pawan Verma?
No, I fully agree, because the element of surprise in these surgical strikes, I think, has caught Pakistan completely off balance. Because Arnab, if you hear the statements, first there was the army spokesman denying that any such strikes took place at all. Simultaneously, we had the defense minister saying that if such a strike is done again, then we will give a muh-tod jawab, a fitting reply. In other words, here is a defense minister acknowledging that such a strike took place, and an army spokesperson of the senior-most rank saying that it never took place.
Yeah.
Then we have the situation where Mr. Nawaz Sharif is calling all the consultative meetings in response to the strike. And on the fourth side, you have Mr. General Raheel Sharif, where the real locus of power lies. And I really want to add this point, Arnab, for discussion. I think we also need to watch very closely what is going to happen within Pakistan and in the power elite, especially in the deep state, as a consequence of this successful strike. I think Ambassador Parthasarathy is better informed and can comment on it.
Yeah, you want to take that, Partha?
Yeah, I think, look, Arnab, one thing we should be very clear of. The Pakistan army has got too used to using proxies. The other thing it has got used to is fighting its own people, whether you are Pashtuns, Mahajirs in Karachi or Baloch. They won't take on the Afghan army and they won't take on the Indian army. So what I believe is going to be the likely response is more attacks within Kashmir, and more importantly, and they will be done by the jihadis. More importantly, and that is to me a matter of concern, and I noticed there have been meetings in the Home Ministry.
That's
today.
right, that's right.
They've got sleeper cells all over India. And I think one should be very careful of managing that situation. I would particularly like to see it's handled in a communally sensitive manner. And secondly, that we are prepared for that. Because, as I said, this is not an army which is going to get into a combat. But it's going to be really trying to flame terrorism within India.
No. So we are trying to look at how the Pakistanis could respond to the situation. Sambit wanted to come in. I think Saurabh wants to come in as well. Just want to make one point here that you have. Okay, Sambit. Yes, Sambit. Listening to you.
In fact, the picture that you had shown right now, the people, BSF and the anti-Maoist group celebrating, that speaks volumes, you know. Our Jawans are people on the border, the ones who are fighting against the Maoists. It's not materialistic gain that they need for any kind of happiness. What do they need? They need a firm resolve. They need that, they fight the enemies, they dissolve the enemies, they neutralize the enemies. And today, look at our Jawans, they're so happy. I'll tell you, I mean, look into the social media world, look into into the TV debates, look into a common man today on the streets, and I have travelled a number of times from my home to the party office. Common man have wished me congratulations, they have come and hugged me. From Kadi Ninda to Kadi Karyawahi. You know that Kadi Ninda word had become a thorn in the throat of Indian diplomacy. That every time something happens, the word that is used is Kadi Ninda. For the first time, the Rubicon has been crossed, and it is not Kadi Ninda anymore, it is Kadi Karyawahi. And that's what the people of this country wanted, that's what the army Jawans wanted, and thanks to the political resolve of this country, the courage of the army, that we have achieved this. This is not any kind of bloating or arrogance. This is just stating what the people of this country really wanted. And secondly, I wanted to say that, well, look, as far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan has never been isolated as it is isolated today, both regionally as well as globally. Globally, we see as to how the NSA of America had called the NSA of India today. Experts are over here who would tell more on that. But regionally also, we see that Pakistan being isolated in the SARC, 4 countries speaking against in unison as far as terrorism in Pakistan is concerned. And today we have a surgical strike, and rightly pointed out by Maruf, it's a catch-22 situation.
We can't afford to let our guard down. We can't.
Never before Pakistan had let.
We cannot. Sambit. On that I agree. We cannot at any point of time let our guard down, and I'd like to say the Indian Air Force is ready for combat patrols. So Maruf, overall we are very well calibrated on a situation like this. You don't carry out one attack like this and then sit back waiting for a response. So Maruf, would you like to come in here? I am also getting information here that Pakistan has moved troops that were in the northwest frontier province to the east after the attack. This is not a very big number, substantial but not militarily significant. Secondly, India is keeping track of all the naval and air exercises that are coming out. Now, these naval and air exercises, they were there for Zarb-e-Azam operation against the Tehreek-e-Taliban and have moved. India is keeping a watch on the operations, on the areas where the operations happen, and monitoring what is going on in the ground. This information which I am giving to you, how do you analyze it, Maruf?
Arnab, it would be highly foolish on the part of the Pakistan Army to respond in a knee-jerk manner after this over the next 48 hours or so, though the possibility does exist, because our guards are really up right now. But our guards are not going to go down, unlike the Pakistan Army that had become too used to doing a terror strike on India, some politicians making noises in India, and then getting back to business as usual, as you said on the earlier show, because the armed forces always operate at a very high state of alertness, and I think there will be much higher degree of alertness now. That's first. Secondly, Pakistan Army will do a lot of superficial activity and movement for theatricals. They have to keep justifying to the people of Pakistan the huge budgetary allocation they get, failing which they will lose their Mercedes-Benzes and their glorious lifestyles. They must remember also that the Indian Army and the Air Force and Navy have huge superiority over the Pakistan Army. The reason they have been brandishing and saber-rattling the nuclear weapon is to psychologically come onto the same level playing field with us, and we have given into that kind of blackmail in the past, and therefore they felt they were able to get away with it. Let me just remind the Pakistanis, and I know some of their viewers must be watching, that one, we have a cold start doctrine in place, which means that if they decide push comes to shove, in 4 to 6 hours, we will have pincer movements going into all parts of Pakistan, and we will be knocking on the gates of at least 6 of their major cities along the India-Pakistan border. They have the choice either to retain their cities and their pride or mess up with us. The Air Force has far greater capability, though depleted, to take on a two-front war, and I'm going to come to that. As far as the Chinese are concerned, they didn't put the kind of military pressure on us during Kargil in 71 and 65. I don't think they're going to do it now. They've got $50 billion invested in the Indian market with trade. They're not going to mess with that. And we have a 7 times larger navy than Pakistan, and believe me, if we blockade them, slowly and steadily we'll squeeze them into hunger, because they have no other paths from which to export either their rice or their cotton or the drugs they export.
I have a little bit of breaking news coming in. I have another bit of breaking news coming in that another cabinet committee on security will be meeting tomorrow to review the situation. Pawan wanted to come in. Pawan Verma.
Just quick 2 points, Arnab. I think what Samvit said, I just want to add that after this action, I think our voice gains far more credibility when we argue the case against terrorism and Pakistan's nexus with it in the capitals of the world. Unless we are able to stand for ourselves, countries don't respect countries, as I said, who don't respect themselves. And after this action, when we talk to the world and provide them evidence of Pakistan's complicity in terror, we will be better heard. So I think it's a watershed moment from that point of view as well. The second point I wanted to just say, Arnab, I heard Maruf with great attention as always, but I think that we should not make the mistake of in any way letting our guard down. We need maximum vigilance as a follow-up to this surgical strike.
So I said the same, sir. I said the same.
No. I think we are all completely on the same page on this one. We completely are on the same page. I have with me finally, and I'm trying to keep our viewers up to date with the very latest. I have a press release after press release, sort of coming in from the Pakistanis, from the Foreign Office. I have another.
They're rattled. They don't know how to react. That's the reason why.
I find this surprising. I've had 4 press releases. ISPR, Pak government, Interior Ministry, Pak Defence Ministry, and now Foreign Secretary press release also after summoning of the Indian High Commissioner. You know, this one also rubs in the fact that we are extremely angry that you are not participating in the SAARC summit. You know, this is the latest 5th press release from Islamabad. You know, as someone who's covered foreign policy for a long time, very unusual, isn't it? Very, very unusual.
Absolutely.
They're having to explain to their own people.
They don't know where to hide. They don't know where to hide. Diplomatically, they're getting isolated. And this tactical move by India has actually made sure that their biggest institution, the Pakistani army, they don't have a place to hide tonight.
Yeah.
Even though we have said it, that this was an action against the terrorist groups that were based in Pakistan, but clearly Pakistani army has been caught out sheltering those terrorists, and they've been exposed further across the globe today. That's the reason it's a great diplomatic victory for us, and we need to sustain this diplomatic the challenges that we pose to Pakistan. We have to sustain this fight, and this is what we need to
9 o'clock is coming up next. 9 o'clock is coming up next. I'd like to tell our viewers that the
20 seconds.
Some politicians don't always have the last word. Poonch operation still on.
No, I wanted to analyze the confusion within Pakistan, and it's going to help us. I mean, look, why confusion within Pakistani dispensation? Remember, when we had Pathankot, when we had Uri, there was no confusion in Indian dispensation ever, because we always stood with truth. The ones who stand with lies, the ones who have terrorism to protect, they are the ones who are confused.
Yeah.
The confused reaction from various departments of Pakistan is because of the fact that they have to cover up for the terrorists. That's the reason as to why the foreign department is reacting in a way, Rahil Sharif in a different way, and Nawaz Sharif in a different way.
20 seconds up. I just hope today, I was watching some Pakistani channels, Partha, Maruf, Pawan Verma, Saurav and Gaurav. I was watching some Pakistani channels and I saw so many of the Pakistani defense analysts, generals, politicians completely hysteric. And they kept saying one thing, that India was a soft state. What did Narendra Modi do to the soft Indian state? I think they are in a sense of shock. We need to keep up the momentum. They should watch the way people like Partha, Maruf and Pawan Verma all express their opinion, and the solidity and confidence that emerges out of them. In them, we have this wealth of political, diplomatic and military experience. We're going to take this forward. India is together. Congratulations to everyone once again. It's a special broadcast tonight, and I'm going to be back with the Newshour at 9. I thank you all for joining me in this part of the Newshour debate. See you in a few minutes.